The paint was still wet on my canvas when my card declined. I stared at my phone, the notification glaring up at me like an accusation. Insufficient funds. I just checked my account yesterday. There had been over $47,000 in there. My entire life savings. I wiped my hands on my already paint-stained jeans and tried again. Same result. With trembling fingers, I opened my banking app. Balance 0.00. My stomach dropped through the floor of my studio apartment. The paintbrush slipped from my fingers, leaving a streak of crimson across the worn hardwood. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. This had to be a mistake. I called the bank, pacing the length of my small apartment, stepping over canvases and supplies. The customer service rep's voice was professionally sympathetic as she confirmed what I already knew. Every penny had been transferred out yesterday afternoon. To another account, authorized with my credentials. But I didn't authorize anything, I whispered. I'm sorry, Ms. Winters, but the transfer was completed using your secure login and authentication code. My mind raced. Who would have access to... Oh, my family dinner last Sunday. My phone, left on the table when I went to help Mom in the kitchen. Angela hovering near my belongings, as always. I'd thought nothing of it. I hung up and immediately called my sister. Angela speaking. Her voice was crisp, professional. I could picture her at her desk in her corner office, manicured nails tapping impatiently. It's Tessa, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Did you take my money? A pause. Not of guilt or surprise, but of annoyance. Oh, that. We had to make an executive decision about the family investments. Executive decision? That was everything I had. Don't be dramatic, Tessa. The opportunity Dad found was time-sensitive. We needed capital quickly. So you stole from me? My voice cracked. Borrowed, she corrected. It's a family investment. We're all benefiting. You didn't ask me. You didn't tell me. Because you would have said no. You always say no to the big opportunities. You're too cautious, too small-minded. This is going to triple our investment in 6 months. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles went white. Put it back, Angela. Now. She sighed, the sound of someone dealing with an unreasonable child. I can't. The money's already invested, but don't worry. You'll thank us when the returns come in. I need that money now. For rent. For food. Oh, please. You've always been so dramatic. Just ask Dad for an advance on your share. I'm sure he'll float you a few hundred to tide you over. My free hand curled into a fist. I want to speak to Dad. He's in meetings all day. Look, I've got to run. We'll talk about this at Sunday dinner, okay? Love you. She hung up before I could respond. I stood frozen in the middle of my apartment, surrounded by half-finished paintings. The afternoon light slanted through my windows, illuminating dust motes and the life I'd built for myself. A life that had just been deemed worthless by my own family. My phone buzzed with a text. Michaela, my younger sister. Angela told me you're freaking out about the investment. Don't be such a baby. This is going to be huge for all of us. I didn't respond. Instead, I called my mother. Tessa, darling. She answered, her voice distant as always. I'm just heading into my book club. Mom, did you know about this? About taking my money? A pause. Your father mentioned something about consolidating family resources for a new venture. I don't get involved in the financial decisions. You know that. They emptied my account. Everything I had. Well, I'm sure your father knows what he's doing. He always does. Her voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. Though between us, maybe if you'd done something more substantial with your life than painting pictures, he would have consulted you. The familiar sting of her dismissal barely registered through my shock. I have to go, darling. We'll sort it all out on Sunday. Another call ended. Another door closed. I sank onto my paint-splattered stool, staring at the half-finished canvas before me. It was a commission that would have paid next month's rent. A commission I couldn't complete without supplies I now couldn't afford. My entire family had robbed me. and they expected me to show up for Sunday dinner like nothing had happened. I looked around my studio, the only place I'd ever felt truly myself, the only space I'd created without their interference or judgment. And now even this was at risk. My phone buzzed again. A final text, from my father this time. "Stop bothering everyone. The decision's been made. This is what's best for the family." Something inside me, something that had bent and yielded for 28 years, finally snapped. I looked down at my hands, still stained with paint. Red for passion, black for void, white for beginnings. They thought they knew me. The quiet middle child, the artistic disappointment, the one who wouldn't fight back. They had no idea what I was capable of. I wiped my tears with the back of my hand, leaving a smear of color across my cheek. If my family wanted to play with fire, I would show them exactly how hot it could burn. I spent 3 days in a fog of rage and disbelief. My calls went unanswered. My texts were met with dismissive responses or complete silence. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't paint. On the third morning, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the hollow-eyed woman staring back at me. My rent was due in 2 weeks. I had $143 in my wallet and nothing else. They can't just take everything, I whispered to my reflection. But they had. I called in sick to the gallery where I worked part-time, then pulled out my laptop. If my family wouldn't answer my calls, I'd find another way to understand what had happened. 5 hours later, my eyes burned from staring at the screen. I'd found nothing about any major investment opportunity in my father's company records. Nothing in the business news. Nothing that explained why they needed nearly $50,000 so urgently that they had to steal it. What I did find was an Instagram post from Angela. Her lounging on a yacht, champagne in hand, captioned, "Celebrating our newest venture. Blessed Nyackshire family first." Posted the day after they drained my account. I slammed my laptop shut and grabbed my keys. I needed air. Needed to walk until my legs gave out or my mind cleared. Whichever came first. The coffee shop 6 blocks from my apartment had always been my refuge. Tucked between a bookstore and a vintage clothing shop, it was quiet enough to think, but busy enough to disappear into. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and took a seat by the window. Tessa? Tessa Winters? I looked up to see a vaguely familiar face. Dark hair, intense eyes, the shadow of stubble along his jaw. "Sorry," he said. "You probably don't remember me. Louis Reyes? We met at your father's holiday party last year." The memory surfaced slowly. Louis had been one of the tech consultants my father had hired. We'd talked briefly about art and technology while everyone else networked around us. "I remember," I said, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. "You were the only person there who didn't ask what my real job was." He smiled, sliding into the seat. "Because art is a real job. Your work was incredible, by the way. That series with the fractured perspectives? I still think about it." For the first time in days, I felt something other than anger or despair. "Thank you." Louis studied my face. "Are you okay? You look like I haven't slept in 3 days." I attempted a smile. "That obvious, huh?" "More like someone who's been punched in the gut and is still trying to breathe." He leaned forward. "I know that look. I've worn it myself." Something in his tone made me pause. "What happened to you?" His eyes darkened. "Your father happened." My coffee went cold as Louis told me his story. He'd developed a security algorithm that my father had claimed was worthless, then secretly patented a suspiciously similar version 6 months later. Louis had been quietly pushed out of the company, his reputation damaged by rumors of instability and poor work ethic. "He took everything I'd built," Louis said, his voice low, "and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it." I felt sick. My family just stole my entire savings, nearly $50,000. They didn't even ask, just took it. Louis didn't look surprised. "Let me guess, for some amazing investment opportunity? Time sensitive, couldn't wait for your approval?" I stared at him. "How did you know?" Because that's what Maximus does. He finds people with resources he wants and he takes them. Usually legally, always ruthlessly. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. "You're still coming to Sunday dinner, right? Mom's making your favorite. Don't be mad about the money thing. It's going to work out amazing for all of us." I showed Louis the text. He read it and shook his head. "They really expect you to just show up like nothing happened?" "They do," I said. "And until 3 days ago, I probably would have." Louis studied me for a long moment. "But not now?" "No." The word felt like freedom. "Not now." He pulled out a business card and scribbled something on the back. "I work in cybersecurity now. If you ever want to talk about options, call me. This number isn't in any system." I took the card, turning it over in my fingers. "What kind of options?" "The kind that level playing fields." His eyes met mine. "I'm not suggesting anything illegal. Just information is power, especially with people like your family." My phone buzzed again. Angela this time. "Dad says if you miss Sunday dinner, you can forget about any advance on your investment returns. Don't be stupid, Tessa." Something cold and clear crystallized inside me. I looked up at Louis. "I need to understand exactly what they did with my money," I said. "And I need to know everything about how my father operates." Louis nodded slowly. "I can help with that. But Tessa, once you start looking, you can't unsee what you find. And with families like yours, there's always more beneath the surface." "I'm counting on it," I said, slipping his card into my pocket. As we left the coffee shop, my phone lit up with a notification. An email from my father's assistant. "Mr. Winters requests your presence at tomorrow's board meeting. 10 a.m. sharp, professional attire required." I showed Louis. "That's unexpected," he said, frowning. "No," I replied, a strange calm settling over me. "That's an opportunity." I stood outside the gleaming glass headquarters of Winters Enterprises at 9:45 a.m., wearing the only business attire I owned. A charcoal pencil skirt and cream blouse I'd bought for gallery openings. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, so I shoved them into my pockets, fingers wrapping around Louis's business card like a talisman. Last night, we'd stayed up until 3 a.m. in his apartment, surrounded by computer screens and takeout containers. Louis had walked me through what he knew about my father's business practices, the shell companies, the strategic acquisitions of other people's work, the pattern of discrediting anyone who challenged him. "Remember?" Louis had said as I was leaving. "Don't let them see what you're really thinking. Your face gives everything away." I took a deep breath and pushed through the revolving doors. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly when I gave my name. "Ms. Winters, we weren't sure you'd come. The board is already gathering in the executive conference room." I nodded, trying to channel Angela's cool confidence. "I'll head up now." The elevator ride to the top floor gave me 20 seconds to steady my breathing. I'd never been to a board meeting before. Had never been invited. Had never wanted to be. The conference room doors were open. Inside, men and women in expensive suits mingled with coffee cups and tablets. My father stood at the head of the table, commanding attention without speaking. Angela was at his right hand, sleek and polished in a tailored navy suit. She saw me first, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rising in surprise before she composed her face into a smile. "Tessa, you made it." She air-kissed my cheek, whispering, "You could have worn something a little more executive." I ignored the jab. "Why am I here, Angela?" "Dad wants to show you what your investment is funding." She emphasized the word investment with a pointed look. "Try to look interested, will you?" My father finally noticed me. "Tessa, good. Not good to see you or good morning. Just good, like I'd performed a basic function correctly." The meeting began promptly at 10. I took a seat near the back, watching as my father presented the quarterly results with practiced authority. Nothing about any new investment opportunity. Nothing about my money. Then Angela stood, clicking to a new slide. "Now for the exciting development we've been working toward. As you know, we've been seeking to expand our creative division, and we've identified the perfect acquisition. The screen changed to show a familiar logo, Archer Studios, a boutique design firm known for their innovative approach and ethical business practices. A firm I'd dreamed of working with someday. With our recent capital infusion, Angela continued, we're positioned to make an aggressive offer that the owners won't be able to refuse. My stomach twisted. Capital infusion. My money, once acquired, my father added, will integrate their client list and top talent into our existing structure. The Archer name will be phased out within 6 months. The room buzzed with approval. All I could think about was how Archer Studios would be gutted, its creative soul stripped for parts. Questions? My father asked, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on me. Tessa, you look concerned. Every eye turned to me. I swallowed hard. Why Archer? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Their value is in their creative independence and ethical reputation. If you absorb them, you destroy what makes them valuable. A ripple of uncomfortable silence. My father's jaw tightened. This is business, not art school, he said dismissively. Their value is in their client relationships and intellectual property, which we will retain. And their people? I pressed. The designers who created that value? Angela jumped in smoothly. We'll keep the ones who align with our culture. The rest will receive generous severance packages. The discussion moved on. I sat in stunned silence, watching my family plot the destruction of something beautiful for profit. And they'd used my money that represented years of work and sacrifice, to do it. After the meeting, my father beckoned me into his office. Angela followed, closing the door behind us. What was that? He demanded. I was asking legitimate questions, I said. You were undermining our strategy in front of the board. He leaned against his desk. I brought you here to show you what real business looks like, what real success looks like. Not whatever it is you do in that studio of yours. The familiar pain of his dismissal washed over me. I'd spent my life seeking his approval, and he'd spent his making sure I knew I'd never earn it. Is that why you took my money? To teach me a lesson? We've been through this, Angela interjected. It's an investment opportunity that will benefit all of us. By destroying a creative company that actually stands for something? My father's expression hardened. This sentimentality is exactly why you're not involved in family business decisions. You lack perspective. And you lack basic decency. I shot back, surprising myself with my boldness. You stole from me. Borrowed, Angela corrected again. Without permission. That's theft. My father sighed heavily. You want your money back? Fine. I'll have accounting cut you a check, minus the family management fee, of course. But understand this. You'll be excluded from all future family investments. When this deal quadruples our portfolio, you'll get nothing. I stared at him, finally seeing clearly. This wasn't about an investment opportunity. This was about control, about keeping me dependent and grateful. I want my full amount returned, I said quietly. Today, Angela laughed. That's not how this works, little sister. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Lewis. Found something. Big. Call me when you're out. I looked up at my father and sister, these strangers who shared my blood. You're right, Angela, I said, moving toward the door. That's not how this works anymore. They're laundering money. Lewis's voice was tight as he paced his small living room. That's what I found. I sat frozen on his couch, staring at the documents spread across his coffee table. Bank statements, shell company registrations, wire transfers to accounts in countries I'd barely heard of. Are you sure? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. Louis stopped pacing and looked at me. Tessa, these patterns are textbook. Money goes in dirty, gets routed through legitimate-looking businesses, comes out clean. Your father's been doing this for years. I picked up one of the papers, a transfer authorization with my father's signature. And my money? My $47,000? It's part of a much larger transfer. Almost 2 million total. Louis sat beside me, his knee brushing mine. They bundled your money with other funds. It's already been moved offshore. The room seemed to tilt. My family wasn't just manipulative and controlling, they were criminals, and they'd made me an unwitting accomplice. I need air, I said, standing abruptly. Louis's balcony was barely big enough for 2 people, but the cool night air helped clear my head. The city lights blurred below us, millions of lives untouched by my family's corruption. What am I supposed to do with this? I asked, my hands gripping the railing. Go to the police? Turn in my own family? Louis leaned against the railing beside me. That's one option. But without more concrete evidence, it would be your word against theirs. And your father has very expensive lawyers. So I just let them get away with it? With all of it? The thought made me sick. There's another way. Louis turned to face me. We find proof, real proof, enough that they can't wriggle out of it. How? I can get into their system, but I need someone on the inside, someone with physical access to the executive floor. His eyes held mine. Someone they won't suspect. Understanding dawned. You want me to spy on my family. I want you to get justice. For yourself, for me, for everyone they've steamrolled. He hesitated. But Tessa, if you do this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your family will never be the same. I laughed, the sound brittle in the night air. What relationship? They stole from me, Louis. They've been dismissing me my entire life. This is different. This is active betrayal. I thought about my mother's cold indifference, my father's contempt, Angela's manipulations, Michaela's blind loyalty to them all. Maybe betrayal is exactly what they deserve, I said quietly. Back inside, Louis outlined what we would need. Access to my father's private server, copies of certain documents, recordings of key conversations. It would take time, patience, perfect timing. Sunday dinner, I said suddenly. I'll start this Sunday. Louis looked concerned. Are you sure you're ready? No, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to smile across the table at people who had stolen from me. Wasn't ready to pretend I didn't know they were criminals, but I nodded anyway. I need to do this. The next morning, I texted Angela. I'll be at dinner Sunday. Tell Dad I want to talk about getting more involved in the family business. Her response came immediately. About time. Dad will be thrilled. Wear something professional. I closed my eyes, letting the rage wash through me. They thought I was capitulating. Coming back to the fold, tail between my legs. Let them think that. I spent the next 3 days preparing. Louis gave me a modified phone with special software and taught me how to use it. We practiced scenarios, anticipated questions. I memorized details about offshore accounts and shell companies so I could recognize them in conversation. On Sunday morning, I stood in front of my closet staring at my options. Professional, Angela had said. I pulled out a simple black dress, modest, forgettable. Perfect for someone who didn't want to be noticed too closely. As I was getting ready to leave, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Tessa Winters? A man's voice, unfamiliar. Who's asking? My name is Khalil. I'm head of security for your father's company. My heart stuttered. Had we been discovered already? What can I do for you, Khalil? I noticed some unusual access attempts on our system yesterday. Nothing got through, but the pattern was interesting. I gripped the phone tighter. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Probably nothing. His tone was casual, but something in it made me uneasy. Just doing my due diligence. Your father takes security very seriously. I'm sure he does. A pause. Enjoy your family dinner tonight, Ms. Winters. The line went dead. I immediately called Louis. Someone named Khalil just called me, I said when he answered. He knows something. Louis cursed under his breath. Khalil Nassar. He's good, really good. If he's watching, we need to be extra careful. Should we call it off? No, but we need to change tactics. Lewis's voice was tense. He'll be monitoring digital access points. We need to focus on physical evidence first. I checked the time. 2 hours until dinner. I can do this, I said, more to myself than to Lewis. Tessa. His voice softened. You don't have to. We can find another way. I thought about my empty bank account, about Archer Studios being gutted for parts, about years of being dismissed and devalued. No, I said firmly. I'm done letting them take from me. It's my turn now. As I hung up, a text came through from Michaela. Can't wait to see you tonight. Mom's making that pasta you love. Everything's going to be just like it used to be. I stared at her message, a cold clarity settling over me. Nothing would ever be like it used to be. And for the first time in my life, that felt like a good thing. My mother's house smelled like garlic and expensive perfume. I stood on the doorstep, heart hammering against my ribs, Lewis's voice echoing in my head. Get what you can without raising suspicion. Focus on physical evidence. Watch for Khalil. I rang the doorbell, adjusting the small recording device hidden in my bracelet. Michaela flung the door open, her face lighting up. Tessa, you came! She pulled me into a hug, her familiar vanilla scent enveloping me. For a split second, I almost forgot why I was there. Almost. Of course I came, I said, returning her hug with practiced warmth. It's family dinner. The dining room was set with the good china, the kind reserved for impressing guests or celebrating victories. Angela was already there, typing on her phone. She glanced up, eyes appraising my simple black dress. Well, it's not exactly executive chic, but it's better than your usual paint-splattered look, she said by way of greeting. I forced a smile. Nice to see you too. My father entered, drink in hand. Tessa, Angela mentioned you're interested in getting more involved in the business. No hello. No how are you. Straight to business. I've been thinking about my future, I said carefully. About what I really want. He nodded approvingly. Good. It's time you grew up. My mother appeared from the kitchen, elegant as always in a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dinner's ready. Tessa, darling, help me bring out the food. In the kitchen, she handed me a bowl of pasta. I'm glad you've come to your senses about the money. Your father was quite upset by your reaction. Was he? I kept my voice neutral. Of course, family loyalty means everything to him. She stirred the sauce, not looking at me. He only wants what's best for all of us. Is that why he's laundering money through offshore accounts? The words slipped out before I could stop them. My mother's hand froze on the spoon. She turned slowly, her face a perfect mask. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, her voice suddenly brittle. And I'd suggest you don't repeat such ridiculous accusations at the table. She swept past me with the sauce, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen, pulse racing. Stupid. That was stupid. I needed to be more careful. At dinner, the conversation flowed around me. Business successes, social events, Michaela's latest shopping spree. I picked at my food, watching them all perform their roles in this family charade. So, Tessa, my father said eventually, Angela tells me you were at the board meeting. What did you think? All eyes turned to me. This was my opening. I was impressed. I lied smoothly. Especially with the Archer acquisition strategy. I've been thinking about it a lot. Angela looked surprised but pleased. Really? You seemed concerned about it at the time? I've reconsidered. Actually, I had some thoughts about how to handle the transition of their creative assets. My father raised an eyebrow. Go on. For the next 10 minutes, I outlined a strategy that sounded plausible, but would require access to financial documents and executive meetings. With each point, I watched my father's expression shift from skepticism to consideration. Not bad, he said finally. Not bad at all. I'd need to see the full acquisition plan, of course, I added, and the financing structure. He studied me for a long moment. "You've never shown this kind of interest before." I met his gaze steadily. Maybe I never had the right motivation before. A small smile played at his lips. "Come to my office tomorrow, 9 a.m. We'll see what you're really capable of." Victory surged through me. Step 1, accomplished. After dinner, I excused myself to use the bathroom upstairs, the one near my father's home office. The door was locked, as expected, but I needed to at least check for security cameras. As I was examining the hallway, a voice behind me made me jump. "Looking for something?" I spun around. Khalil stood at the end of the hall, arms crossed. In person, he was taller than I'd imagined, with sharp eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Just the bathroom," I said, gesturing to the door across from the office. "It's that one." He pointed to a door further down the hall. "Right. Thanks." I moved past him, feeling his eyes on my back. Inside the bathroom, I texted Louis. "Security guy is here, watching me." His response came quickly. "Get out as soon as you can. Don't push it today." When I emerged, Khalil was gone, but the damage was done. He was suspicious. Downstairs, I found Angela alone in the living room, nursing a glass of wine. "That was quite a performance at dinner," she said. "What are you really up to, Tessa?" I sat across from her. "What makes you think I'm up to something?" "Because I know you. And you don't suddenly develop business acumen overnight." "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think." She leaned forward. "Let me be clear. Dad might be intrigued by your little transformation, but I'm not. This is my territory, my future. Don't get in my way." The threat hung in the air between us. For the first time, I saw real fear behind her perfect facade. Angela wasn't just protecting the family business. She was protecting herself. "What are you afraid of, Angela?" I asked quietly. "What happens if someone looks too closely at how this family operates?" Her face paled slightly. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I?" We stared at each other, the pretense of sisterly affection completely gone. The front door opened, and my father's voice carried down the hall. "Khalil, what did you find?" Angela's eyes widened fractionally. I stood up, heart pounding. "I should go," I said. "Big day tomorrow, 9 a.m., right?" As I gathered my things, I heard Khalil's low voice. "We need to talk about your daughter, sir." I slipped out the side door, the night air cool against my flushed skin. I had what I needed, an invitation to the inner circle. But at what cost? The game had changed. They were watching me now. And I was running out of time. He knows something's off. I paced Louis's living room at midnight, still in my dinner clothes. The way Khalil looked at me, like he was cataloging every movement, every word. Louis typed furiously on his laptop. "We need to accelerate the timeline. Your father's giving you access tomorrow. That's our window. And if Khalil is watching, if he's monitoring everything I do, then we get creative." Louis looked up, his expression grim. "Tessa, we found something else. The Archer acquisition? It's worse than we thought." He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was an email from my father to Angela, dated 3 weeks ago. "A has agreed to our terms. Once paperwork is signed, liquidate all assets immediately. M will handle the offshore transfers. Use T's account as buffer. Clean origin, no questions. Complete by month end." My stomach dropped. T's account, that's me. They were using me as a washing machine for dirty money. They needed a clean account with no connection to their usual channels. Louis confirmed. "Your money was never meant to be invested. It was meant to disappear." I sank onto the couch, a cold clarity settling over me. They made me complicit. If anyone investigates, my name is on those transfers. Which is why we need to move fast. Louis closed his laptop. "Tomorrow, when you're in your father's office, I need you to plug this into any computer on the executive network." He handed me what looked like a normal USB drive. "It'll create a backdoor for me to access their secure servers." I turned the small device over in my hands. And then what? Then we get everything. The whole operation. Enough evidence to force them to return your money and keep them from destroying Archer. And enough to send my family to prison, I added quietly. Lewis didn't deny it. That's your choice, Tessa. How far you want to take this? I barely slept that night, tossing between rage and doubt. By morning, my resolve had hardened into something cold and sharp. I dressed carefully in a borrowed suit from Lewis's ex-girlfriend, something Angela would approve of. Professional, polished, the perfect disguise. The USB drive felt like a live grenade in my purse as I walked into Winters Enterprises at precisely 9 a.m. My father's executive assistant greeted me with surprise. Ms. Winters, your father's expecting you, but he's running late. He asked if you could wait in the conference room. The Archer team will be here at 10. My heart skipped. The Archer team is coming today? Final negotiations. She smiled conspiratorially. Between us, it's a done deal. Your father never loses. The conference room was empty. I sat at the massive table, staring at the computer terminal built into its center. A perfect opportunity, if I could access it. I glanced at the door. No one watching. I pulled out the USB drive. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I froze. Khalil stood in the doorway, arms crossed. This isn't what it looks like, I said automatically. He closed the door behind him. It looks like you're about to insert unauthorized hardware into a secure system, which is exactly what it is. I dropped the drive back into my purse, mind racing for an excuse. Khalil sat across from me. I've been watching you, Tessa. And your friend Lewis. My blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Louis Reyes, former employee, terminated under questionable circumstances, currently working as a cybersecurity consultant while apparently plotting corporate espionage against your father. His voice remained calm, almost conversational. And you're helping him. There was no point denying it. Are you going to tell my father? That depends. He leaned forward. On why you're doing this. The question caught me off guard. They stole from me, used me, lied to me. And now you want revenge. I want justice, I corrected, and my money back. Khalil studied me for a long moment. 2 months ago, I flagged some unusual transactions for your father. Large sums moving through unconventional channels. He told me it was a special project and to ignore similar patterns in the future. He paused. I didn't feel comfortable with that. I stared at him, understanding slowly dawning. You're not here to stop me. I'm here to make sure you don't get caught. He said quietly. What your family is doing with Archer, and with other companies before them, it isn't right. But if you use that drive, they'll trace it back to you within hours. Then what do I do? I whispered. Khalil pulled out his own drive. Use this instead. It's clean, untraceable, and will give your friend what he needs without leading back to either of you. I hesitated. Why would you help me? Because I've spent 3 years protecting your father's empire, and I've seen enough to know it needs to be dismantled. He placed the drive on the table between us. But understand this. Once you start this, there's no controlling where it ends. Your entire family could face serious charges. The weight of his words settled on my shoulders. This wasn't just about my money anymore. It was about years of corruption, of people being used and discarded. I understand, I said, taking his drive. Khalil nodded once. The system will be unlocked for exactly 2 minutes when the meeting starts. Your father always begins by showing the same presentation. That's your window. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Khalil stood quickly. One more thing, he said, voice low and urgent. There's a company jet scheduled for tomorrow morning. Your father, Angela, and several board members. Private airstrip, invitation only. Where are they going? The Caymans. One-way tickets. His eyes met mine. Whatever you're planning, do it today. By tomorrow, they'll be gone, and so will any money they control. The door opened. My father entered, followed by Angela and several executives I recognized from the board meeting. "Tessa," my father said, looking between Khalil and me with narrowed eyes. "I see you've met our head of security." "Just introducing myself," Khalil said smoothly. "Explaining our protocols." Angela gave me a suspicious look. "The Archer team will be here any minute. Try not to say anything artistic." As everyone took their seats, I felt the drive in my pocket. One chance. Today. Before they disappeared with everything, my phone buzzed with a text from Louie. "In position. Ready when you are." I looked up to see my father watching me, a calculating expression on his face. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch away from his gaze. The game was ending today, one way or another. The Archer team arrived looking nothing like I expected. No sleek suits or power ties, just 3 people in casual business attire, with the quiet confidence of people who believe in what they create. Their lead designer, a woman named Danny, had the calloused fingertips of someone who still worked with her hands. My father began his presentation, all charm and practiced authority. I watched the Archer team's faces as he outlined his vision for their company's future. Their expressions shifted from polite interest to barely concealed concern. "And of course," my father concluded, "we'll ensure a smooth transition for your key personnel." "You mean the ones you decide to keep?" Danny said quietly. My father's smile didn't waver. "We'll make those determinations based on alignment with our corporate culture." As promised, he pulled up his standard acquisition presentation. The computer terminal in front of me blinked, indicating it was active. Khalil caught my eye from across the room and gave an almost imperceptible nod. My 2-minute window had begun. I leaned forward, pretending to take notes while sliding the drive into the USB port beneath the table. A small light flashed green. Connected. "Excuse me," Angela interrupted, staring directly at me. "Tessa, what are you doing?" Every head turned toward me. My fingers froze on the keyboard. "Taking notes," I said, forcing a smile. "I want to learn how this works." She narrowed her eyes but didn't push further. The presentation continued. My phone vibrated silently. "Lewis, we're in 60 seconds to download." I glanced at the Archer team, at the resignation already settling into their postures. They'd built something meaningful, and they were about to watch it be dismantled for parts. Just like I'd been. My phone buzzed again. "Download complete. You need to get out now." I removed the drive, tucking it safely into my pocket. Now I just needed to excuse myself and, "Before we proceed to the paperwork," my father said, "I believe my daughter has some thoughts on the creative transition. Tessa?" Every eye in the room turned to me. This wasn't part of the plan. I wasn't supposed to speak. I glanced at Khalil, who gave me the slightest shrug. No help there. I stood slowly, buying time. "Thank you, Father. I've been studying Archer's portfolio extensively." Angela watched me like a hawk, suspicion radiating from her. My father waited expectantly, a trap I couldn't see yet coiled beneath his polite attention. And then I saw it. The Archer team's faces, the quiet desperation. The same expression I'd worn when I discovered my account had been emptied. Something shifted inside me. This wasn't just about getting my money back anymore. Archer Studios has built something remarkable, I began, my voice stronger than I expected. Their design philosophy, their ethical approach to client relationships, these aren't assets you can simply absorb. They're the soul of the company. My father's expression hardened. "Tessa, let me finish." The authority in my voice surprised even me. "I've reviewed the acquisition plan in detail, and it's not an investment. It's a dismantling. You're not planning to grow Archer. You're planning to strip it for parts and discard the rest." The room went deadly silent. The Archer team exchanged glances. "That's enough," my father said, his voice dangerously quiet. "No, it's not." I turned to the Archer team. "They're using shell companies to move money offshore. Once they acquire you, they'll liquidate your assets immediately. It's all happening tomorrow. They have a private jet ready to take them to the Caymans. Angela stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. Tessa clearly doesn't understand business strategy. I understand perfectly, I countered, pulling out my phone. In fact, I have the emails where you and Dad discuss using my account as a clean origin for funds, where you plan the liquidation of Archer's assets, where you discuss the offshore transfers. My father's face went white. Where did you get those? From your secure server. I met his gaze steadily. The same server where you keep records of all your other acquisitions, all your other victims. You had no right. He hissed. Neither did you when you stole from me. The Archer team was on their feet now, gathering their materials. I think we're done here, Danny said. Sit down, my father ordered. This meeting isn't over. Yes, it is. I stepped between them and my father. And so is this entire operation. Angela grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Do you have any idea what you've done? She whispered furiously. I pulled free. Exactly what you taught me to do. Take what I want and destroy anyone who gets in my way. My father stood, his rage barely contained. Security will escort you out of the building, now. That won't be necessary. Khalil stepped forward. Ms. Winters isn't the one who needs to leave. The conference room door opened. 2 men in suits entered, not company security. Maximus Winters? One of them asked, though it clearly wasn't a question. We're with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. We need you and Angela Winters to come with us. My father's face contorted with fury as he looked from the agents to me. You did this. No, I said quietly. You did this. I just stopped looking the other way. As the agents led my father and sister out, Angela turned back to me. You're still our family, she said, her voice breaking slightly. How could you do this to your own family? For a moment, just a moment, doubt crept in. These were the people who had raised me, shaped me, defined my world for 28 years. Was I really capable of bringing them down? Then I remembered my empty bank account, the dismissal in my father's eyes, the casual cruelty that had been our family's currency for as long as I could remember. Family doesn't steal from family, I said simply. Family doesn't use family as a pawn in their criminal schemes. As they disappeared down the hallway, the Archer team approached me. Thank you, Danny said. But why? Why risk everything to warn us? I thought about all the reasons: justice, revenge, self-preservation. But in that moment, only one answer felt true. Because someone should. My phone buzzed with a message from Louis. It's done. All evidence sent to authorities. Get out now. I looked around the conference room one last time, at the empire my father had built through manipulation and deceit, at the life I'd been trying to earn a place in for as long as I could remember. And I walked away. The lobby of Winters Enterprises buzzed with confusion. Employees whispered in clusters as federal agents moved through the building. I kept my head down, aiming for the exit before anyone connected me to the chaos. Tessa, wait. I turned to see Michaela rushing toward me, her face flushed with panic. What's happening? They're saying Dad and Angela were just arrested. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for reassurance. Tell me this is a mistake. The sister who had always followed Angela's lead, who had texted me about my investment with such casual cruelty, now looked like a lost child. For a moment, I almost softened. It's not a mistake, Michaela. They've been laundering money, using shell companies, using me. Her face crumpled. But they wouldn't do that. They did, and they used my account to do it. Understanding dawned in her eyes, followed quickly by anger. So this is revenge? You're destroying our family because they borrowed money from you? They stole from me, I corrected. And no, this isn't about revenge. It's about stopping them before they hurt more people. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand. Dad was just trying to secure our future. Angela told me everything. The business was in trouble. They needed cash flow. The business was fine, I interrupted. They were hiding money offshore, stealing from people like me, like the Archer team upstairs. I don't believe you. I pulled out my phone and showed her one of the emails Lewis had recovered. Her face paled as she read it. There are hundreds more like this, I said quietly. They've been doing it for years. Michaela looked up, her expression shifting from denial to a dawning horror. Did Mom know? The question hit me like a physical blow. In all our investigating, we'd found no evidence linking our mother to the financial crimes. But she'd been married to my father for 30 years. How could she not know? I don't know, I admitted. Michaela's phone rang, our mother's ringtone. She stared at it, then at me, suddenly uncertain. Answer it, I said. She put the phone on speaker. Mom? Michaela, thank God. Where are you? Our mother's voice was tight with tension. At Dad's office, with Tessa. A sharp intake of breath. Put your sister on. I took the phone. Hello, Mother. What have you done? The coldness in her voice was familiar, but the fear beneath it was new. What no one else would, I replied. Stop them. You've destroyed this family. They destroyed it when they decided to steal from me, when they decided breaking the law was acceptable. They were protecting us, she hissed. All of us. Do you think your father's business was built on playing nice? On following every petty rule? This world eats people who play by the rules, Tessa. And there it was. The truth I'd always suspected but never wanted to believe. She'd known, all along. Where are you now? I asked. A pause. Why? Because federal agents are probably looking for you too. I'm at the airstrip, she said after a moment. Your father's jet. We were supposed to take a trip. To the Caymans. One-way tickets. They're not coming, Mother. Another pause, longer this time. I know. The line went dead. I handed the phone back to Michaela, who stared at me with new eyes. She knew, Michaela whispered. All this time. Yes. What happens now? I looked around the lobby at the company my father had built through deception and intimidation. Now we tell the truth. All of it. We spent the next hours with federal agents, Michaela and I, sitting side by side, unraveling the web our family had woven. With each revelation, I watched my sister's world collapse and rebuild itself, just as mine had days earlier. When we finally emerged from the building, the sun was setting, painting the glass towers in gold and shadow. Louis waited by his car, relief washing over his face when he saw me. You okay? He asked. Getting there, I said. My phone buzzed with a text from Khalil. Your mother's gone. Private charter. Left before agents arrived. I showed Michaela the message. She nodded slowly, unsurprised. She always had her own escape plan. What will you do now? I asked her. She looked at me. Really looked at me. Perhaps for the first time. I don't know. Everything I thought I knew about our family was a lie. Not everything, I said, taking her hand. Just the parts they wanted us to see. As we drove away from Winters Enterprises, Louis updated us on what he'd learned. The authorities had frozen all company assets. My father and Angela would face multiple federal charges. The evidence was overwhelming. What about my money? I asked. Most of it's gone, Louis admitted. Moved through too many channels to recover easily. But they found about $12,000 in one of the holding accounts. It's being released back to you. A quarter of what I'd lost. Not enough to rebuild my life as it was, but enough to start something new. The Archer team wants to meet with you, Louis added. Danny called while you were inside. Said they have a proposition. I thought about Danny's calloused fingertips. About people who built things with their hands and hearts, not just spreadsheets and schemes. We dropped Michaela at her apartment. Before she got out, she turned to me. I'm sorry, Tessa, for not seeing it, for not believing you. We see what we want to see, I said, especially with family. Are we still that? Family. I thought about all we'd lost, all that had been revealed. We're something new now. Something true. She nodded, understanding. I'll call you tomorrow. As we pulled away, Louis glanced at me. Where to now? I looked out at the city, at all its possibilities. For the first time in my life, there was no path laid out for me. No expectations to fulfill or disappoint. Just open space and my own choices. My studio, I decided. I have a painting to finish. He smiled. The commission? No. I thought about the canvas I'd been working on when my world collapsed. Crimson for passion, black for void, white for beginnings. Something new, something honest. As we drove through the darkening city, I felt the weight of my family's legacy lifting. They had taught me that power came from controlling others, from taking what you wanted regardless of cost. They were wrong. Real power, I realized, wasn't in what you could take from others. It was in what you chose to create for yourself.